right, guys, welcome to a new episode of Submission Radio Morning After Live. I'm Denis Shkaradov. It's good for you guys to join us. Jump on. Let's get into it. There's so much to discuss. Get your coffees. Crack your coffees open if you're in Australia, or a cold VB long neck at 8 a.m. in the morning. Get that up here. By the way, if you guys want to support the program, completely independent show, you guys can become a member. You guys can throw in a super chat. Every dollar helps. And also throw in your questions into the chat. Make sure you throw them in early, and I'll try to get through them or to them because we have a lot to discuss with these next two gentlemen. And by the way, I got some real heavyweights here. That's why I wore this t-shirt. I got some real heavyweights on the show today. I got some big names to break a bunch of the stuff down. This first guest right here, I haven't had a chance to speak to him this year, but listen, this guy's been going coast to coast, man. The road dog. He's done it all. WWE, UFC, Bellator, you name it, he's done it. He's the voice that runs the place. Jimmy Smith, welcome to Submission Radio, man. Thanks for finding some time in your busy schedule to join me here on Morning After Live.
Where am I? I'm at home. All right. It took me a second. I'm at home. I'm on the road. I'm just trying to figure out where I am and what's going on. I am here. Yeah, I called the fight Friday in Dallas, Texas. Flew home yesterday. Here I am calling a fight from Mexico next week, and then one every week until April 17th. It's my life.
Dude, you are the defending NWA voice champion. You're the Ric Flair of commentary, my friend.
Business. Yes, I'm the Ric Flair of this business. New city every week.
I love it, man. 16-time voice champion. By the way, joining me here is another champion who was able to take care of business on Errol Houani's channel. Obviously, Errol was away covering the Olympics. This man does Boys in the Back and so much more on the channel. But we got to see a few more live shows, all of them spectacular, all of them great. He joins me now as well. New York Rick, huh? Great work over the last couple of weeks, my friend.
You're too kind, Dennis. You're making me blush. Thank you for the kind words. It was a lot of fun. But for anybody who missed Ariel, tomorrow he'll be back, and we'll be back to the regularly scheduled programming.
And Rick's like, and I'm going to get a little break. I'll still be there, but I'm not carrying the ship all day. So I get to enjoy my spot. I love it, man. I love it.
Thank you, brother.
All right, guys, so there's a lot to talk to, but I just got to bring up this last couple of days in the world of combat sport. First things first, Real American Freestyle. And Jimmy, I know you probably got a good eye on this one. A lot of your friends, people like Kurt Angle, Eric Bischoff, people from the pro wrestling industry really jumping into combat sports, trying to make it happen. And by the way, over this past weekend, I feel like Real American Freestyle got more juice than the UFC card in Mexico. Arman Tsarukyan in there doing his thing. He's back again, and we get a brawl. For those that missed it, have a look at this brawl. This is from Mike Heck at MMA Fighting. He shared this. So the boys are wrestling, and then there we go. Big brawl breaks out at Real American Freestyle 6. Absolute chaos, as you could see. A little bit of WWE in the combat sports world, but of course a real sort of heated rivalry between the guys there. For those that were wondering as well, the match itself, it was actually not a bad match at all. The Tsarukyan secured a victory and then tackled Pulis to the ground and started throwing punches, led to members of both teams pouring onto the mats. And yeah, it escalated in a hurry after both Tsarukyan and Pulis complained. There were slaps to the head during the match and different shoves. The referee had to intervene. Jimmy Smith, a little bit of the WWE in the combat sports world, especially amateur wrestling. What's your reaction to the latest sort of big brawl from Real American Freestyle, and just the fact that they've been able to really sort of dominate the headlines with their shows lately?
I called one of these, by the way. I've worked for Real American Freestyle. I called one.
Of course you have. You worked everywhere. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, my friend. Yeah.
No, don't be sorry. They want me to come back. It's been hard to fit with my schedule. As I said, I'm constantly on the road.
You have to do submission radio today. Like, you got to put the priorities right. You know what I'm saying? You know, like,
yeah, no, submission radio. I don't know. Hey, submission radio. So, what bothered me about it is some matches in freestyle wrestling get chippy. All right, slaps and hits and forearms and shoves. What bothered me was this was the end of the match. Arman Tsarukyan was on top, right, defending a takedown. Match is over, finished. Shoves him over and punches him. This wasn't in the middle of the match when things were a little chippy and he threw a shot at him. They're both on their feet. You could see a shot coming. He waited until the end. When the fight's over, the guy relaxes for a second, shoves him over, gets on top of him, and punches him in the jaw. So not only did I not like what he did, I mean, you're not supposed to punch somebody in the middle of a freestyle wrestling match, is you didn't do it in the middle when the guy could have seen it and defended himself and could have hit back. You waited till it was all over with, and you were on top of the guy, pushed him over and punched him. There are people out there defending him and what he did. And I went, hey, if you have a problem with a match getting chippy and there's a difficult, situation, somebody slaps you and you slap him back, hey, I get what you're coming from. He waited until the end, till the guy was virtually defenseless, pushed him over and punched him. So even the way it was done was exceptionally bad. And having called, like I said, Real American Freestyle before, the problem is they're not in an octagon. They're not in a ring. There's nothing preventing everybody on earth from jumping on there and getting in a brawl. So the difficulty with the setup is you can't, there's no, hey, there's no security to speak of, really. This isn't a fight. So if you go to a wrestling tournament, you go to the NCAAs and somebody starts punching and everybody jumps on the mat, unless there's security in the building, there's nobody there to stop it. And, I see right now the comments, the old Strikeforce brawl, they can control who gets into a locked cage. They can't control who hops up onto a mat with no fences around it. So it gets exponentially more dangerous because they're really not prepared for something like this to happen. And that's exactly what did happen is, a bunch of people jumped on the mat. Well, there's nothing to stop them. They have token security for whatever building is, there is, but there, at a fight, there's a lot of real security that knows what they're doing. And they try to keep people out of the ring and out of the octagon. Can't do that here. So on every level, it sucks. And the difficulty is when you're using MMA guys for wrestling, not that, Arman's a good wrestler and everything, but stuff like this breaks out in an environment that's not built to handle it. It's really dangerous. And the problem is, as you said, it does get headlines. A fighter, a wrestler can get headlines hitting somebody or slapping somebody in the mat, but it'll quickly break down if you keep doing that, right? It's this like, hey, we like the headlines. We don't like people doing that. As I said, what are they going to do? Put it in a secure location where people can't get on the mat, and that hurts part of the environment. It's so close. And when you go to the NCAA tournament, you're sitting right on the side of the mat. It's part of what makes it exciting. If you need to keep people off the mat, it changes everything. So in a lot of ways, it was stupid. I thought Arman was way out of line. I thought it was if you have a problem with somebody getting chippy during the match, okay, you want to throw a punch, do it while you're standing up. And okay, a guy hit me and I hit him. Okay, still stupid, but I get where you're coming from. He waited until the guy couldn't do anything about it. That's what really bothered me about it.
Rick, obviously we've seen him headbutt Dan Hooker before, break his nose before the fight. Dana White not that keen on giving him a title shot after a couple of things have happened. Do you think that this is something? I got someone in the comments, Arman definitely headbutting Paddy or Ilya in face-offs, but do you think this is something that the UFC sees and goes, oh man, like not again? Do you think this is something that could potentially impact his reputation? Or do you think the UFC just don't really care about what really goes on outside of their organization?
Let's not forget he also reeled off and punched a fan in the face during his walkout and got suspended. So Arman Tsarukyan seems to have this as his, MO. I don't think that this will be the thing that prevents him from getting a title opportunity. I think it's pulling out of the fight against Islam has rubbed Dana White clearly the wrong way, and he has no affinity for Arman Tsarukyan. But in the time since, Arman Tsarukyan has built himself into a viral star. And to be honest, this probably helps that, right? Like, it certainly doesn't help make him more reliable for the UFC. It certainly doesn't make it safer for him to be at some of these events. But as far as getting attention and kind of cultivating this, like, it's almost like a Diaz brother, Hamzat Chimaev, like hair trigger, you say something, we're going to go at it. And I think fans love it. Like, I think that's why there's so much attention on it. But I don't think that's the thing. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, I agree with you, but the problem is you're not John Jones in DC. Like, you're a guy that UFC says, do we need another Eastern European Dagestani guy being a champion? You know what I mean? You're already somebody that's going to have to get a little push for the fans who accept the UFC to want you. And you're doing things that might jeopardize our investment in the fight. Is a bad combination. I remember, if you saw the behind the, no, not behind there, it was Dark Side of the Ring about Dr. D. David Schultz smacked a reporter and, was, blackballed, got into it with Mr. T. And they pointed out that Hulk Hogan choked out a talk show host on a stage and dropped the dude on his head. And I remember Jim Cornette saying, well, Hulk Hogan could have shot somebody in public. And you're Hulk Hogan. Dr. D. David Schultz was not Hulk Hogan. If you're a problem in a promotion, if you are an issue, like headbutting a guy on the stage, and you're not a star, it's a different set of rules. And Arman is not a star. He's not one of the guys that the UFC is going to go, yeah, this guy's really worth. If you headbutt a guy in the nose, the commission's going to go, you're not fighting tomorrow. Well, we just spent God knows how much money promoting this fight. Are you really that guy? And so the problem is who Arman is doing what he's doing. Not so much what he's doing is who he is and then doing what he's doing. That's the problem. You need the UFC behind you in a big way, and that's just one more thing to get in the way.
Hey, Rick, if we were booking Jimmy Smith for Real American Freestyle, right? You and me were the promoters. We got the mighty pencil. Who are we putting him on there? Because you've got to see Jimmy Smith compete on Real American Freestyle now, right? What would be our dream match to see Jimmy Smith?
I wouldn't dare. I'd let Jimmy handle that one. I wouldn't dare to put him in there against somebody unless he.
Are you jumping in, Jimmy? I want to see you jump in straight from the commentary booth, like Oscar Willis did that time at that Fight Circus event. Like, I want to see you jump straight on from the commentary
Jeff
booth.
Glover did
right
it at Metamoris. Took off his suit and commentary and took off Barry Yoshida in a grappling match. Well, he's Jeff Glover. He was one of the best in the world in his prime. I was not, and I'm 48 years old. So no, no way. Yeah. I don't think so. I'm not getting. I get pinned real quick. Like I'd be like, all right, me and Bilal. I'd be like, Bilal, help me out here. Bilal, just help me out. Just let me get one takedown and then cradle me up and pin me. All right, we're good. But somebody like that, somebody I've worked with, like a friend of mine, I'm like, all right, come on, Chael, come on, just like make it look good for a second, then pin me.
Oh, you and Chael would be good. Yeah, you and Chael.
Oh yeah, I would talk all kinds of shit, and then I just get pinned. And I'm like, all right, cool,
I'm in.
Wonderful, I'm in. Let's do it.
Sign me up. I'm in, man. I'm in. And by the way, I saw Hamzat Chimaev calling out Colby Covington, New York, Rick, for a Real American Freestyle. How are we feeling about that one?
I think Hamzat has very limited dates that we see him compete in general. I would not want one of them to be Real American Freestyle, with all due respect to Real American Freestyle. I want to see him compete in the UFC and either defend his title or go up to light heavyweight, which he seems to want to do, and I guess is an option on the table. But I just want to see him fight.
God,
and not guys at the airport, not army veterans at the airport, like real UFC fighters,
actual professionals.
Yeah,
you know who's a real UFC fighter? Leonard Kavanagh. He pulled off a shocking upset yesterday as well over Brendan Moreno, UFC Mexico. Destroyed the lead leg kick with calf kicks from hell. 49, 46, 48, 47, 48, 47. Jimmy Smith. I mean, we've got a comment right here from Joseph. Leonard Kavanagh turning the flyweight division upside down with his win last night. Went from unranked to maybe top 6 contender. Who even knows if these rankings even matter? But what's your reaction to him sort of getting this upset in Mexico, right?
Yeah,
Crowd wouldn't have been too happy.
You can lose to your opponent. You can lose to the moment. He didn't lose to the moment. I'm in Mexico City. I'd be screaming and yelling. What was really impressive to me is he didn't lose to the moment. He fought very, very well in very adverse conditions. Brandon Moreno couldn't adjust in time. It was almost that because he's been outstruck before and shifted gears very quickly to a different strategy. He didn't shift to a different strategy until round 3. We started seeing like, okay, I'm getting beat on the outside, made it a clinch game, slowed it down, did veteran stuff. I thought the shifting of gears was a little bit slow. Of course, I liked Kavanaugh's strategy. Good stuff from the outside. Good jab to go along with the leg kick. Good spinning stuff later on in the fight. This idea that, and when we talk about later on, Oliveira, Holloway, this kind of stuff, I'm asking myself more and more with a lot of fighters and a lot of matchups at the UFC level, and Brandon Moreno is one of them, how much they have left in the tank after what they've been through. There's almost this, I'm thinking less about strategy and tactics and all the stuff I used to think about with guys in their prime, and I'm going, after all the beatings and all the camps and all the work and all the championships and all the Moreno's just, it wears you out. And so I'm seeing more and more, and every now and then, an era starts wearing down, and now we're getting there where I'm going, am I thinking about what are they going to do as what percentage of this fight are we going to see? And we saw a lot of Moreno. He didn't look shot completely, but that inability to recognize early on in a fight when I need to change tactics, it wasn't there until a little late, which is a sign of, I'm just not processing up here like I was maybe a few fights earlier. And I think more and more and more, and I don't want to jump topics, more and more, we're getting into that era of like, oh, it's Justin Gaethje versus so-and-so. I'm like, how many more punches can Justin Gaethje take? Will Justin Gaethje still look like Justin Gaethje? Not as much as what's he going to do in this fight, as much as what am I doing, here? And Cosmo Kramer right here. Yeah, you just get overworked by these kids that are 25, 26, firing on all cylinders right here, this next generation of MMA. And it's not a matter anymore of better or worse. It's a matter of, can I dig into my gas tank / toolkit enough to get a win anymore? And that's what I'm increasingly asking myself. And Moreno, that's what I asked for this fight is, prime Moreno beats this guy, but this ain't prime Moreno. And so that inability to adjust, and Kavanaugh, as I said, not being overwhelmed by the moment, because that's the thing on the other side. When someone's on the way up, it's, hey, this is your first fight at T-Mobile, enjoy that adrenaline because the veterans have done it over and over and over again, and you haven't. Kavanaugh didn't lose to the moment, which made the question about what does Moreno have left, and we got that answer.
I'll tell you what, another fighter I'm constantly asking about what he's got left is King Green, right? New York Rick. He was able to pick up a win here. People are saying, hey, King Green versus Michael Chandler for the White House. Are you co-signing that?
Sure, but it's not like I'm dying to see it. It's not like my dream matchup. But I'm down. It's like one of those like Jim Miller invitationals, like, yeah, we got two veterans, like, let's just do it. But I'm not like clamoring for Michael Chandler versus King Green, although I think it'd be a fantastic fight. I'm in though. Like, I'll look, he's in that category of guys that I'll watch until he decides to be done. Like him, love him. He's certainly outmatched in the elite level matchups, but every once in a while he can summon it. I will say, like, one of the bigger takeaways though is about Zellhuber, right? Like that is where my mind instantly went.
I'll tell you, man. A lot of these fighters, dude, are hanging on. We'll see what happens with King Green. We'll see what happens with a lot of these announced matchups. The big question I have is the news that we found out today. Mac Life graphic right here. Alex Pereira vacates his lightweight belt as UFC 327 in Miami is locked in. We'll talk about UFC 327 in Miami shortly. But Jimmy Smith, what was your reaction when you saw, all right, Alex Pereira's going for it, man. He's vacating that lightweight belt. He's trying to get that third belt on the mental at heavyweight. The funny thing is, right, could be two different scenarios for him. Don't know if John Jones is going to jump back in. We see there's still negotiations, if that even means anything. But Cyril Gane, that's a real fight that Alex Pereira has a chance of winning. So what's your reaction to Alex Pereira just having a crack at potentially winning this third belt and making history, Jimmy Smith?
Well, the thing is that light heavyweight isn't very good. A lot of veteran guys, a lot of guys have been around for a long time. There's no real standout. Pereira was really the guy at light heavyweight. And then heavyweight is a graveyard right now. It's awful. It is it's one of those things throughout the history of UFC and combat sports, period. I remember talking to Steve Farhood, who's a boxing genius. He's been around forever. And we were talking about Mike Tyson in the 80s. And I said, yeah, he's great, but heavyweight wasn't very good. And he looked at me and goes, heavyweight usually isn't very good. It's very rare that the heavyweight division of boxing is really good. It was great in the 90s. It was great in the 60s. He said good in the 70s. 80s wasn't very good. 2000s wasn't very good. He goes, it's one of those things where it's very rare that there are enough big athletic people, especially in America when you be a football player, are all involved in combat sports. So Pereira's doing the right thing at the right time because heavyweight is garbage. And there isn't a Cain Velasquez. There isn't a guy who's going to wrestle you to death and your striking is going to be totally meaningless. There isn't one of those guys out there. So anyone who stands and bangs with Alex Pereira, there's a chance he's going to put you down and put you out. So the idea that the versatility, which would be his problem in any division, isn't a big thing at heavyweight right now because a determined grappler takes him down, keeps him there. He's heavyweight, and grinds until it's over. There's not that guy right now. So it's a shot in the arm at heavyweight. Will it work out? I don't know because people say he has heavyweight power. Oh, all right. Let's assume he does. We don't know. You don't know until you get in there because even guys at 205 cut something to make 205. And what I always tell people is somebody's cutting weight, somebody's not cutting weight are two different animals in terms of when Conor McGregor hit Nate Diaz at 170 and Nate went right. It was a different dude. He's like, oh man, I drop guys with these shots normally. Well, you don't drop a well-hydrated guy who's a weight class above you normally. It's a different animal. And so we haven't said, so people say he has heavyweight power. Well, you can't tell someone has heavyweight power until they hit a heavyweight, period. And speed isn't really his thing. His timing is good. Roy Jones Jr. didn't try to knock out John Ruiz. He just was so fast that John Ruiz couldn't lay a glove on him. That's not really Pereira's style. He's not an ultra fast light heavyweight. So we'll see how it works, but now's the time to try the stunt. Heavyweight stinks. So I understand why he's doing it, and I'm sure he's getting a boatload of money to make this opportunity.
Nah, great point, Jimmy. And I got to say, I think, by the way, we've got a question here from, let's see, where did it go? Where did it go? Joseph. Yeah. Am I crazy to think Alex should have defeated Ulberg, then move up? A lot of media don't mind this because heavyweight is graveyard, but Alex will be 39 July 7th. Who knows how much he's got left? New York Rick, do you feel like, yeah.
What does a win over Carlos Ulberg do for Alex Pereira's resume at this point in his legacy? Like nothing. It's worth zero. I've been arguing he shouldn't have even done the Ankalaev rematch. Thankfully, he was able to pull that one off, get the dub, and move back. But
That was
he
real
showed me the
dangerous.
heavyweight a
Yeah.
fight ago. Like there's nothing left for him at light heavyweight. And if I'm him, you remember when like the dark arts and like the mysticism was the story about him versus Yuri. If I'm Alex Pereira, I'm using whatever dark arts I can to make sure that John Jones's arthritis starts acting up and that he's not the one who steps in the cage with me. Because I'd rather like my chances against Cyril Gane if I'm Alex Pereira much more than I like the chances of John Jones. I don't want to see John Jones with that Cyril Gane game plan coming in, putting me on my butt, and then maybe choking me out. I'd rather take my chances and stand with Cyril Gane.
I mean, let me bring it up in just a second, but just quickly, a couple of members here. John Ray MMA, thanks for joining us. David Senadine buying 10 gift memberships. Thank you so much. Jimmy, I've got the rankings here, Jimmy and Rick, of the heavyweight division. Where do you think, when you look at these rankings, right? These rankings are crazy. Look at these rankings. Derek Lewis moving up 3 spots after what we just saw from him in his last fight is absolutely insane. They literally have no one. Waldo, dangerous. We don't know what his ceiling is. Curtis Blades, he's a veteran. We'll see how he does against Hokit. But really, where would Alex Pereira slot in for you guys in this ranking? I'll go with you first, Jimmy. When you look at this, compared to what we have ranked right here, where do you think Alex realistically would slot in here?
All right, 2 things. A, this could be from 2000, what, 12? Those rankings, this could have been the rankings a few years ago. These names have been in here forever. These guys have fought over and over and over again. So that's a difficulty with the whole division. Is we're talking about the same guy. Alexander Volkov, and I called his fights in Bellator. The guy's been around for years and years and years. It's very striking heavy. I don't see one D1 wrestler on there. There's no DC there. So when I look at this list, if Volkov is if Cyril Gane is, and then it's Volkov, I put Pereira above Volkov, right? That's what I'm looking at right now. Alexander Volkov's the number 2 contender. I have no problem putting Pereira number 2. None at all. Sergey Pavlovich, good, not great. Curtis Blades has been around the top 5 for years and years and years. Can't get over the hump. Actually, stylistically, if you put Pereira against anyone on here but Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades is a horrible matchup for him. Real long, good wrestler, tall for the weight class, strong, once again, a grappling-centric kind of style. Anybody else, he has at least a puncher's chance. I wouldn't necessarily make him the favorite. We have to see how he hits heavyweights, but literally anyone on that list, he has at least a puncher's chance, except Curtis Blades, which they'll never put him anywhere near Curtis Blades. So, yeah, I have no problem with number 2 on that list.
And I think that's the key, is that there's just not a dominant fighter, right? We were hoping that Tom could kind of be that guy, but there's nobody on there that couldn't lose to the number 8. The number 2 guy could lose to the 8 guy on any given night in this division. There's just not. It's all parity. They're all equally good and bad. There's not somebody who really stands out other than Tom to me, and obviously Tom's on the shelf.
And by the way, just quickly, another shout out to DJ Serenity buying 10 memberships as well. People are getting gifted memberships in the chat, and I think it's because I got royalty joining me here with Jimmy Smith and New York Rick. This is a heavyweight show, and I'm feeling it right now. I'm feeling it right now.
I don't feel anything. I'll take all that credit.
Yeah, well, you've just been traveling coast to coast, man. How can you feel, right? You're like Stone Cold Steve Austin over here, mate.
I don't know what it is
throwing
right
mics into crowds after you're done commentating. No one says anything to Jimmy. UFC 327, by the way. Let's have a look at this card now, fellas. Here it is here. Yuri is, of course, now taking on Carlos Ulberg for the light heavyweight title. I was going to say intra, but no, it is the undisputed title. We have the flyweight title here, Josh Van as well on there. Benil Dariush in that main card card spot as well. Gamrot on there too. Curtis Blades, the man we just spoke about. Kevin Holland as well against Randy Brown. Patricia Pitbull and Aaron Pico. There's a lot of questions there. Dominic Reyes and Johnny Walker potentially fighting for who gets to fight Robert Whittaker in his 205 debut. And of course, Paulo Costa as well, Cub Swanson, Calvin Gastelum. So we have some name value on this card, but it does feel a little bit flat to me. New York Rick, how would you rate this card compared to some previous pay-per-views that we've had?
I'll be honest, I was looking at it and I thought it looked pretty good. Maybe I'm crazy.
I feel like I promoted it well. Like I feel like I went through all the big names and I hit you with them.
When I look at a card and I don't see 15 guys from Contender Series, that's all I need. I'm happy. I'm happy as a clam. When I see Kelvin Gastelum like that low on a card, I'm like, let's do it. I don't care if Kelvin's best days are behind him. I want to see names and faces that I recognize, not a guy who just got a contract, 2 weeks ago on Contender Series. So I don't mind it. I'm into it. I like the flyweight title fight quite a bit. The light heavyweight title fight makes a lot of sense with Alex Pereira out of the division. I love Holland versus Randy Brown. I think that could be a lot of fun. I'd love to see where Patricio Pitbull and Aaron Pico are at. A little bit of a Bellator fight right there. I'm into it. I dig 327. You sound like you're off. I'm in. I'm all in.
I feel like I promoted it well, right? Maybe I didn't see it. I should have promoted it myself to my own mind. Jimmy, are you sold on UFC 327? And what do you make, by the way, of this Yuri Carlos Ulberg main event? Ulberg, a bit of a dark horse, right? They call him the Black Jag. This isn't the stripping room anymore. This is the UFC title room right here. And Carlos Ulberg has a lot to gain, a lot to prove. Also, I was there for Perth for his Reyes win, and obviously, fans still getting to know him a little bit here. Do you think he could pull the upset for a lot of fans and sort of beat Yuri to become this undisputed champion?
Yuri is a definition of, I don't know. Like, he literally drops his hands funky, weird. He can be winning and then do something dumb and give it away, or he can dominate. Like, I think I called him in Ryzen years ago, and it was like, what is this guy doing? Where he can either pull out a great win because he's so unorthodox, funky, has natural power at these weird angles, right? He can throw a punch at you like how and knock you out. But by the same token, he can throw something weird and leave his chin out and just get cracked, and it's over. So that's the problem is the inconsistency of his performances. Ulberg is a bit more traditional, a bit more standard with his kickboxing, definitely has power. But if I could put my finger on the difference in this card between people like it and people don't like it, I think it will produce very, very entertaining fights. How many people, other than Joshua Van, who's current champion, will come out of this and you'll go, that's the best guy in the division? All right, if Ulberg does it, okay, but light heavyweight is, as you said, there's so much parity right now that light heavyweight, would I go, that's the guy? And you're Prochazka. Has been through a lot, which is an opening theme that I was talking about. Is Yuri's a vet. He's been through a lot. He does tend to make a lot of tactical mistakes and leave his chin out, so he's been finished by those guys before. If Ulberg just catches him on the button, will we walk out going, oh, my God, this is the Ulberg era? A bunch of guys that are about as good as he is, so that's the state of light heavyweight right now. I think that's part of it, is it will produce very exciting fights, okay? The idea that a victorious Patricio Pitbull is going to be the guy at 145 pounds, unlikely. I like Patricio Pitbull. I think a few years ago he would have been damn near number one, if not number one. I think his best days behind him, but he can still hit. Aaron Pico will be, in many ways, a lot of ways,
big one.
One of the most disappointing, I want to say, wrestlers / mixed martial artists of all time, if he can't right the ship right now, because this was a guy, if you know his background, he won one state title as a freshman, was ranked number one in the country, went, I'm done with this high school thing, stopped wrestling at high school level, tried to make the Olympic team, missed it by 1 point, and then hasn't won a title in MMA. Never went to college, never won any national titles, never All-American. It was like he skipped every step to kind of get to the next step faster, and I think he lost a lot of learning opportunities doing that. And he kind of jumped into the deep end, got finished in his first fight in Bellator. I was there. And it's like, dude, you had all this talent and you never slowed down enough to like really make the most of it. And that will be the story should he lose to Pitbull, because it's tough to come back from that. Pitbull had a prime where you went, man, this guy's really good. He was champion in Bellator multiple times. He was really, really good. So I don't think the loss kills him necessarily, but Aaron Pico, it'll be a tough story should he lose. So there are a lot of subplots. I think they're very interesting fights. It's the idea that, am I really seeing the best other than, once again, a victorious Joshua Van, who we have questions about because of the way he won the title. So it's just one of those where I think there's a lot of unsettled business, right?
Yeah, nicely put, Jimmy. And I was going to say, even after the whole Patchy Mix, you don't need to try because you always do a great job of it. But even with the Patchy Mix situation, right, coming in, getting cut like that, I feel like a lot of fighters like Aaron Pico, right? You're in your head, you're almost like, I don't want to be the next Patchy Mix. I don't want to come in with these high expectations and then not be able to succeed at the highest level, only to show everyone that, hey, I was just never on this level and I was sort of thrown into this. So mentally, there's got to be all sorts of games being played here. But Rick, for Josh Van, right, he won the title in the worst way you could potentially win a title. Not his fault. You just want to, you go in there, you do your best. It's not your fault that the champion gets hurt like Pantoja did. But do you feel like if Josh Van goes out here, defends this belt, right, that a lot of people don't really feel like is his belt yet, do you feel like that gains him some momentum from fans? Do you see him as more as the real champion if he's able to go out here and have a statement performance, UFC 327?
Probably not, but I don't think it matters, right? Unless he beats Pantoja, I don't think anybody's going to look at it any differently, right? Because if he was matched up with Tyra prior to fighting Pantoja in a number one contender bout, he could have beat him and would have just been number one contender. Him, getting that title opportunity, and then winning the title the way he did. I don't think those questions ever get answered until he fights Pantoja again. But at the end of the day, he's the second youngest champion in UFC history. He's an extremely exciting fighter. He's got a super fun style. He's a good-looking young kid. I think it doesn't really matter. Like he just has to hold his ground until Pantoja comes back and knock off a contender or two as we wait for that, and then all questions will be answered at that point. But I don't think it does anything in anybody's mind because of the way he got the title.
I do wonder, though, Jimmy, we got Johnny Walker and Reyes fighting each other here. Do you feel like the winner of that fights Robert Whittaker for his 205 debut? Does that tickle your pickle, or you want to throw him right in there with Khalil and those boys?
I'm thinking about what tickles my pickle. Let me think.
Let's do it, man. You can say
anything. But you don't want to know. You don't want to know here. You don't. There's certain
Submission Radio After Dark, depending where you watch it.
Right, Radio After Dark. But I do think it's an entertaining fight. But they have a little of what I said about the Yuri Prochazka, where these guys can either start you and pull something really funky and fun, or they go out and just get blasted because, especially Johnny Walker, who the old joke in combat sports is, man, if I had your build, I'd be undefeated. If I had your height and I had your range, I would fight tactically and I'd be undefeated. But Johnny Walker just never really fights that way. He just fights in an unorthodox way that leaves him extremely vulnerable. Dominic Reyes physically, I think, you could argue peaked with the John Jones fight that a lot of people thought he won, myself included. And he kind of mentally never got past that. He never got over that. He never really seemed to get to heights beyond that, despite his, once again, incredible physical talent. And that's where both of these guys are. They're in the fun every time, but sometimes it's fun because they go out there and get starched. So you got to realize what you have in front of you. And when I'm training fighters, sometimes back when I used to train fighters, you say, look, you can be really fun or you can be a world champion, because a lot of times the fun guy isn't the world champion, and the fight anybody, anywhere, anytime guy is fun and makes money. He's very rarely a world champion. So that's what we have with these two guys, and it's what strategy they bring that night, but it'll always be fun. And Robert Whittaker against a guy like that tends to be a lot of fun. So yeah, I definitely think the winner gets a shot at Bobby Knuckles.
You know who's a rare fighter? Carlos Prates. He's fighting JDM in Perth. He's one of those guys, like you mentioned, Jimmy, you'd be in the training room with him and being like, well, this guy can be fun and effective. Like, this guy is just a savage, right? Fight anywhere, anytime. Box of cigarettes in his pocket. Seen him just laying in a lobby in Perth before, just looking like he, just went out till like 5 a.m, just looking for more cigarettes. Like, this is not a...
You see one in every... But that's actually what he did. It's not looking. That is exactly actually what he
he's
did.
Living the life, Rick. He's
state.
Living the life. He's living the life. He's fighting JDM in a Saturday night Perth main event, May 2nd. What's your reaction to this fight being made for JDM? I mean, if you're JDM's coach, and by the way, I spoke to him before this was announced, this was the fight they wanted. It's a perfect way for JDM to showcase his striking and get him back into the mix. But for Carlos Prates, man, at the same time, it's the flip side of the coin. Like JDM is not going to be shooting for Carlos Prates' legs throughout the fight. He's going to be standing and banging with him, and that's going to guarantee probably a pretty big war in Perth. What do you make of the matchup there,
It's
Rick?
it's a great matchup. I think it's what they both want and need, right? Like I think JDM needs a fight like this where somebody's going to stand with him and Carlos is going to oblige. And then on the side with Carlos, like we've seen him beaten on the feet by Ian Machado Gary. And that was, the biggest moment of his career and he faltered there. And now he has another opportunity against JDM, the former champion, who I think is still extremely good, right? Like Islam is a nightmare matchup for pretty much everybody. But certainly for JDM, this is an opportunity for JDM to get back on track, and I think it's a good matchup for him. I'm not proclaiming that like he's going to walk over Carlos Prates because I think Carlos is very good, but this is the type of fight if you're JDM that you would want and to retain your ranking and stay near the top of the mix and then hopefully climb back to the title. So I like it for both sides. I think this is the perfect thing. Other than Carlos having thrown out there like Conor McGregor's name, like this is probably the best thing you could get outside of that.
By the way, Jimmy, we've got a super chat here perfectly made for you. Appreciate the $10 shiz. Hamzat versus Alex Pereira. Who wins? You know about weights, you know about weight classes, you know about the difference a heavyweight versus a middleweight makes. But at the same time, looks like Hamzat is quite big for his size. Would you
I worry
go
about
with Hamzat?
style. I worry about style. Hamzat's
Look
just
at
one of
you.
those
Of course
guys.
you do. You're a stylish man. Who do you think wins it?
I try. Okay, it's this idea that Hamzat has one of those styles that almost is. It's so rare in MMA. Colby had it in his prime. He just dives for a leg and just I dare you to stop me. Right? He's not trying to time anything. He's not trying to. I'm going to punch and then go into this takedown. I'm going to do this and set something up. Nope. I'm explosive. I'm big. I have faith in my wrestling. I'm just going to dive at your legs until you get sick of it. And the difficulty with any supposition about Pereira's styles, he's never fought that guy. He's never fought somebody who's like, I am dogging these legs until you have to stop me. And another thing about Pereira, who has great gas, great timing, everything, gas is different when you're out of your element. Gas is just a different thing when you're like, man, I got to deal with a takedown. I have to deal with top pressure. I have to deal with all these things that this Chechenian dude brings. And you know about the Saitiev brothers, like the history of wrestling in Chechnya. I mean, it's incredible. Now, it's going to take somebody who has those kind of credentials to stop Khamzat Chimaev. So I think Khamzat Chimaev is stylistically a nightmare matchup for Pereira. And if you're Pereira, you're the UFC, you don't let him anywhere near him because it would be the worst aesthetic style of your life. We saw what he did, Dracus du Plessis. It who's a better grappler, by the way, than Pereira. I agree. I think Chimaev would be the worst possible matchup for him.
Let's just get Sean Strickland in there. Let's get him to defend this title. That'll be a good start for our guy right there. By the way, just quickly as well, we're going into the big fight week, Rick. All right, let's get a little rating on another card. I don't want to sell this one for you as much as I did for UFC 327. Right? I'm not Ron Perlman here. I don't want to narrate it for you, but have a look at the card right here. We have no championships on the line. We have Max Holloway. Here I go again, selling you the card. Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, BMF title. Kai Bahia, RDR, and then boom, we drop off a cliff. I mean, a couple of fun fights there.
I'm looking at these two. You don't feel like 327 is significantly better than this?
I do feel that, yeah. I mean, Jimmy was talking about how it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about what the main event, though, has the implications for the winner. But ultimately, there is no. I don't know what the implications are for anyone here.
It's hard because lightweight's murky, right? Arman Tsarukyan is hanging out there and probably should be next in line, but Justin Gaethje's holding on to the Mickey Mouse strap and will probably get the next opportunity. So it's this weird thing where we don't know what the light heavyweight division means. There's 3 belts, 2 of them are fugazi as hell. I love that fight more than anything on 327, but top to bottom, like 327 is crushing this one. This is mostly a 1 or 2 fight card. But that one fight is fantastic. I'm all in on Charles and Max. I think their best days are behind them, right? The time where they were dominant in the lightweight division or Max more at featherweight and champions. But I still think they have quite a bit of juice left and gas left in the tank from what we've seen lately. Like I don't think of them as like shop worn guys that are on the that are so far on the back end that like you really can't headline with them. I like this fight. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think they're going to have a good time heading into it and promoting it. So I'm all in on another BMF title fight with these two.
BMF titles, an interesting title, but look, it's going to have to work because this is a great matchup. Jimmy, when you break this thing down, these guys had fought each other previously, but I just almost throw that whole thing out. This is almost the first time, basically. Yeah, non-existent. Two different fighters, two different paths. Mentally, these are completely different fighters too. But when you break this thing down, right, when you look at it and you think about who's walking out on top, what is your gut feeling telling you here?
My gut feeling is I like the snap of Charles Oliveira's punches. He's very, very clean with his boxing. Doesn't throw a lot of loopy stuff. Max Holloway has made a whole career out of throwing kind of loopy, unorthodox stuff. It works for him. He's a volume guy. But I remember Justin Gaethje saying, no one ever hit me like Charles Oliveira hit me. The guy can really punch. Charles Oliveira has the advantage on the ground. Neither guy is a great wrestler. So the idea that somebody goes for a takedown and the other guy can't stop it, I think is highly unlikely. This can be mostly a striking battle. It's the same question I've been asking myself with a lot of fights currently in the UFC is who's got more in the tank, man? Who hasn't endured as many beatings? The idea that Oliveira lost to, of course, lost to Ilia Topuria and sort of Max Holloway in similar ways, man. Max Holloway just throws these tight, beautiful, straight, sharp combinations. No fat on his punches is the way I would describe it. So when I think about who has the edge here, I think of who kind of has that sharpness still. So far, I'd say it's Oliveira. That's where I'm leaning right now. Is that Oliveira has just a little more snap, a little bit better. But the problem with this sport is it's not a hill, it's a cliff. That's, you say, I still think they have a lot left. It just goes away all at once. Justin Gaethje looked like a shadow of his former self against Paddy Pimblett. Still won the fight, right? But I was sitting there looking at a guy, and I was like, my God, this guy looks ancient. He's loading right hands. I was like, what are you doing? He still won the fight. But this idea of you don't know until it just suddenly happens. So I think that is the biggest question, is who is closer to the prime that we saw a few years ago. Stylistically, I like a little bit more the technique, the high hands, the good snap of Oliveira. But we saw both these guys have taken vicious knockouts comparatively recently, both by Ilia Topuria. And you kind of go, all right, who recovered best? The little stupid things in camp that you get away with when you're 25. Who got the most sleep? I swear to God, who is doing the recovery the right way? Who is hydrating properly? Just get magnified at this stage in everyone's career. The undisciplined fighter who kind of just got by on talent to a certain, like they go off a cliff at this point in their career. So we almost learn now who is the most disciplined and who's doing the little tiny things that make you better. And but tactically, I'm leaning toward Oliveira by the slimmest of margins.
They're talking about the point down, Rick, right? It's the BMF title. Max is known for the point down. Are they going to throw a strategy out the window and just have a car crash in the middle of the octagon, in your opinion? Or do you think Max Holloway is going to be a little bit more strategic? I mean, we've seen Max Holloway. He's got the footwork, right? He might be able to go in there and win a few rounds before this car crash happens.
Yeah, I favor Max slightly in the fight. I liked what I saw against Ilia Topuria before he got knocked out. I thought he was being pretty effective, and then the end came as it always does with Ilia Topuria. I think he has a little more left, despite the fact that he's absorbed the most strikes in UFC history. He's also delivered the most strikes in UFC history. I favor Max slightly, but I think Max will look good. As far as Charles goes, though, it's always a car crash. Like, that's his style. He creates the chaos. Charles Oliveira, is aggressive on the feet, and that cost him against Ilia Topuria. But he's going to be in Max's face, and his best skill, one of his best skills, is that even when he's on the front foot and gets caught with something or whatever, he turns it into a scramble, or he's recovering into some kind of grappling exchange, and he's extremely dangerous down there. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but I slightly favor Max in it. But yeah, it's going to be a car crash just because Charles Oliveira forces car crashes. That's exactly what he does.
Jimmy, I got to ask you, man. Obviously, for the winner, Max Holloway is already sort of talking about he'd love to have another crack at Topuria, right? I was talking about Dan Hardy. about Dan Hardy, and he thinks that the weight might make a difference and make it a little bit of a different fight. Do you feel like if Max Holloway wins here, let's say he's trying to get in there, get this fight with Topuria, which is probably extremely unlikely, but if it did happen, would you see the fight going any differently?
Nope. Nope. I really believe unless Topuria is divorced, just like I don't know, he's a shell of his former self, and unless his personal life overtakes his ability in the octagon, which does happen sometimes. I remember I was with Katie Florin. We're on this show, and we were breaking down Ilya's technique, and I went, if you slow down his punches, I can teach you how to punch with that. See how I throw a right hand? Like that. Tight, elbow up, nice and straight. The way he throws a hook, everything lined up, heel, hip, and hand, turns his whole body into it. The guy just does the things right that a lot of mixed martial artists don't do. His boxing is very, very high level, and that doesn't change at 55, doesn't change at 45. And the power differential to me doesn't mean a whole lot. It isn't, oh man, I'm a hydrated 55, I can take a shot better. Nobody can take a shot like that and be okay. He did the same thing Charles Oliveira at 55. And so this idea that the weight changes things, the only thing that changes things is if Ilya Topuria comes back and has legal issues for the next year and loses part of his prime, or he, loses everything he owns, and so he's really depressed. It's got to be some kind of outside factor. I don't see anything right now in the octagon that makes me favor anyone at 55 against Ilya Topuria, except Islam Makhachev should he come back to 155 pounds. Then maybe. And then Arman is the biggest challenge. He's not going to stand with him. He's going to really test his ground game. But right now on the horizon at 55, I don't see any striker giving him any problems.
It's an interesting situation in the division right now. It looks like it's going to be Gaethje and Topuria next, Rick. But then after that, it does look like Topuria is probably going to want to take a trip up to welterweight. So that will open up the division slightly. We got someone asking here, could the winner of the main event at UFC 326 jump over Arman in the title chase at lightweight? Let's say Max Holloway wins. We've got, a vacant title opportunity. Do you think that one of the guys from this coming weekend could potentially find themselves in a title shot?
I don't think Ilya Topuria is going to be fighting at 170. I know he's talking about Islam. I don't think that's where he ends up. I think he has contenders at 55 that he'll have to attend to. I don't think the 70 if I'm the UFC, that doesn't sound very appealing to me. For one, Ilya Topuria is a big star. Stylistically, that feels like a nightmare matchup against Islam Makhachev, especially at 70, where now he's having to come up in so much weight against a guy who looks pretty comfortable at 170. I wouldn't be so keen on that. And I think it's possible, just because we've talked about, Dana White has not a lot of affinity for Arman Tsarukyan. So there's certainly a possibility. I imagine Arman will get the next shot. I imagine after Gaethje and Topuria that Arman gets the next shot.
Jimmy, this super chat right here. Do you think Ilya Topuria's power, if he does go to welterweight, do you think it transfers to welterweight? You mentioned Conor McGregor. He's a featherweight as well. Didn't really transfer to welterweight.
Power just doesn't. I mean, you got to be super. Anderson Silva, 85 to 205, translated. He never fought the best, by the way, at 205, right? He took on guys that, in one case, Forrest Griffin, a former champion. He didn't fight the best of the best, but his power did look like it translated to 205. There are a handful of guys. BJ Penn beat the crap out of guys at 55. At 170, he was just another guy. Robbie Lawler at 170 moved up to 185 in the Strikeforce career. Wasn't the same guy. Power just didn't translate. 15 pounds is a lot. And Ilya would have to change his style. Not that he can't win, but you can't rely on your ability to starch a guy with one shot. You have to become more of a volume striker. Got to mix it up a little bit more. That's a different gas tank than the one you originally had. So, no, I don't think it's a good move. I don't think it's a smart move. That doesn't mean he won't do it. The difficulty is, as you pointed out, he has other challenges at 155 pounds that I think are there. And also, when you talk about somebody, could somebody leapfrog Arman? It ain't hard to leapfrog Arman, right? It's just the UFC isn't really getting behind the guy. And so if Charles Oliveira looks great, he might be the next one. But a move up to 170, I agree with you. I think it's a lot of talk. I think it's a great talking point. It keeps him in the news. It gets people talking about him. But a move up to 170, which has always been, by the way, a wrestler's division. There are a lot of great grapplers at 170 that can negate Ilya Topuria's game, which is not really the case at 155 pounds. So I don't think it's a good idea.
Speaking of 170, Rick, who do you think should be fighting Islam Makhachev next?
Michael Morales. I think Ian Machado Gary earned it, right? We always say the word deserves in MMA, even though this is not a meritocracy and there really isn't any way to actually earn anything because they can just give a title shot to whoever they please. Um, with all due respect to Ian Machado Gary, I don't think his style poses much of a threat to Islam. Whereas with Michael Morales, even though he's more unproven, the way he dispatched of Sean Brady, the distance from which he was able to prevent Brady from getting in on him and thwart his offensive grappling, and the power that he just carries, being what looks like a much more natural like middleweight at this point. He's got that like Rumble Johnson cutting to 170 look to him. I'd just like to see it because I think it's more interesting, and I'd like to see Islam have to solve that puzzle. Whereas I think the puzzle of Ian Machado Gary is just a little bit easier to solve. It looks more traditional. He doesn't have a huge like athleticism advantage like Michael Morales would have. So I'm more interested in Michael Morales, even though I will certainly grant that I think Ian's resume on paper is better at this moment.
That's rough, man. Islam Makhachev, having to defend against Morales. Like, I feel that guy. How is he cutting the weight?
It's one of those two, right? It's
massive.
It's Ian or Michael.
Anthony Rumble Johnson over here, 2.0, right? Like,
for sure.
Brady's huge. Brady's huge.
Brady said he wants to move down a weight class.
Dude, I was like, he ragdolled him. I'm a big Sean Brady fan. I couldn't believe that one. So it's decided if Ian Machado Gary would have to have a lot of things go right for a long time to beat Islam, if that makes sense. You can maybe pick them apart, good range, hand to foot, foot to hand, make it real tricky, move around a lot, but you'd have to do that for 25 freaking minutes. And I'm not saying it's impossible. Morales has the physical ability to go out there and I caught you with this goofy uppercut, and now you're out. So things have to go right for him, but fewer things have to go right for less time. And I think that's an important thing when you're looking for an upset.
It's a rough one too because Morales goes out there, loses. Yeah, we said he'd lose. Morales goes out there and wins. He has everything to gain, right? Like for Islam Makhachev, it's like, oh, let's just fight the toughest guys out there, and but I guess Ian Gary as well. I don't know. It's a tough.
He's
one.
the number one pound for pound. Yeah,
you want to be champ. I don't want to fucking hear it.
Yeah, he's the number one pound for pound guy.
Thank you. I want this. So, what bothers me, I'm going to little rant here. Fighters always want to be underestimated because they want to be the underdog, and they get mad when people underestimate them. Well, I'm going to prove all the haters wrong, but you wanted to be the underdog. You like that, and then you're mad at us for calling you. Well, then if we didn't think you're the underdog, you wouldn't be. And then they're number one, and they're like, man, why am I fighting these lower guys? Well, you wanted to be champion. I don't know what to tell you. Like fighters, a lot of times want it both ways. You can't have it. Sorry.
Oh my God. Rick, any other questions about 326? Any other fighters you're really curious? I mean, Kaio and RDR both issues with weight, right? RDR not looking himself. Kaio doing an extra weight cut before his fight didn't really quite look like himself. I feel like this is another one. There's a lot on the line for the winner, and then I think the loser, has a lot to lose.
They need to get back on track, but it's a lackluster card.
Well, also the beating that DeRitter took last time out has me going, dude, that's not easy to recover from. Anytime I see, we all saw the fight, but round 4 corner stoppage, you got beat up for 20 minutes. How often do we see that? Hardly ever. And Brennan Allen was thumping him. And it was one of those where he slumped down at the end, and I went, he's going to need some time here. This is one of those beatings that takes a lot out of you. So remember, DeRitter was here. We were like, this is the next contender. Oh, Brennan Allen's good, not great. And Brennan Allen beat the dog piss out of him for 20 minutes. And so one of my questions always with that is, has he taken the time to recover? So something fighters really don't do, especially the age of DeRitter. They want to get right back in there. And I go, whoa, hey, you took a really bad beating. And how he recovers from that, because we know about the obviously on the other side, Nasruddin Imavov and the Chabrali fight. Imavov isn't really that kind of, it was, out tactic him, ticked him, but I was worried about his health at the end. At the end, I was a little like, man, DeRitter took a bad one there. So recovery is going to be a big part of that fight. Dude,
DeRitter told me he couldn't walk up the stairs for weeks after that fight. His body was so riddled, he had to go through. I'm surprised. I was like, dude, go up to 205, have a crack there just to let your body recover. But he insists middleweight is his division. Sorry, Rick, you were saying?
I was just going to say, not only did he, get manhandled in that fight, but or not manhandled. He had some moments, but the brutality was all on the side of Brendan Allen.
Yeah.
he had an extremely aggressive schedule, right? And we've seen this with Marab against Piotr Jan as well. Sometimes just fighting that frequently, high level fights that often is detrimental to what you're trying to do, right? And I think he just ran out of it by the end of that. He was on such a rocket ship, and he goes in there against a guy in Brendan Allen who was preparing for this like it was the biggest opportunity of his life, and then it turned out to be. And so he handed it to him. But I think as long as he got enough rest here, I think we'll see a good version of him. And this is a good matchup. Like I think this is a lot of fun. I think both of these guys are going to be really hungry to get the win here.
I wanted the DDP IDR fight, but whatever. We'll see what
Yeah,
happens
that would
with
have been fun.
that.
That would have been fun.
That would have
What
sold
is
the card
DDP
for.
up to? Well, who does he come back against? It feels
Dude,
like
I saw
we haven't seen
Kamaru
him in
Usman
forever.
said they were going to offer him DDP. I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
No, I
don't
think
know
he
what-
said they did, but he didn't want it, which is weird. I would have liked that fight if I was Kamaru.
I don't know, dude. I think everyone's forgotten about him very, very quickly. Last super chat here. This Shiz guy loves Hamzat, but appreciate the $10. If Hamzat made weight at 170, would he have beaten everybody? Right. Just
Yes.
trying to have a think here.
Yes.
Because was it the weight cut though that was killing him towards the
That's
end?
the
Like,
issue.
yeah.
Look, Paulie Malignaggi, boxer, is my broadcast partner at Pro Box TV. He goes, "Yeah, if my aunt had
Shout
balls,
out.
she'd be my uncle." So anyway, he says, like, what if this person? Yeah, if he could made 170 consistently, yeah, if he had made 55, he'd be great. But like, he couldn't do it. So would it have caught up to him to the point where it would have affected his performance? Like, could Khamzat? One of the things that Khamzat, the big
Because
question
Islam's
mark
in that division, right? It's like,
yeah.
Now he
At
is.
one-
At that time, he wasn't.
At that time,
but if it was now though, right?
I don't think he can make it. He's too big.
He's too big, couldn't make it. And also, you got to remember the idea that the UFC has a super fight with one Eastern European fighter against another Eastern European fighter. It's not worth it. Why are we going to use up two champions when we get basically the same guy either way? It's not worth it at all. The idea that he would have been dominant at 170 implies he could make 70 over and over. At 170, remember, he had 2 good rounds in him every time. He just couldn't. I don't think he could have done championship rounds at 170. You know what I mean? Kamaru Usman, who was late notice and came up in weight class, and it was turning around. He was starting to win. And you can't do that at the championship level. As you just pointed out, champs, the schedule sometimes is a mother. And you got to make the weight. You got to make it for 25 minutes. You don't get the pound allowance. He did the right thing moving up to 85. I don't think he'd have consistently done it at 170 to the point where he's a standout champion.
It's interesting, right? Because when I think about the 170 champions, Rick, I go, how many of him versus them? How many would I favor him against? And when you think about like Johnny Hendricks, when he was, doing whatever he was doing before he had the decline, GSP,
Doing whatever he was doing. Very well put.
Because and all of that, right? Like, there's a lot of guys in there. You're like, ooh, okay, it's a tough division if you're a wrestler.
170 has always been a wrestler's division.
Yeah.
85 hasn't. So you can't really be champ at 170. You go back to Matt Hughes. Like, it's always been Johnny Hendricks, GSP, Josh Koscheck. The guy won a national title at Edinburgh. Like, the idea that is the idea that you can't be number one at 170 without dealing with or being national level wrestler in your prime. So the advantages Khamzat has at 85, he would have run into other All-Americans and other guys at 170 because it's full of wrestlers. You'll run into them at some point. He might not at 85.
When you look at Chael and the success he had in 85, and then if you throw Hamzat into that division, go, okay, maybe he would have found some success in that division back then too. Anyway, let's wrap things up because I know you guys have a lot cooking. So Jimmy, you're on the road. Break it down for us. What's the schedule? How can we stay on top of everything that's happening for you? Where are we at over the next couple of weeks?
Pro Box TV. I'm calling a boxing match every week until April 17th. Check it out on Pro Box TV. It's also on Amazon, Fubo, Tubi, and Pluto TV because I've got promos for them, so that's how I'm able to say that. We have one every weekend. It's our March Madness. I am working every single day this month, Pro Box TV. So check me out. I'm doing a daily boxing show, and I'm calling a fight every weekend, and that's going to be my life for the next 6 weeks. So
awesome.
Help me out and enjoy the fights and give me some moral support on social media.
I'm going to have the social media link in the description below so you guys can check it out. Rick, what's happening on Ariel Helwani's channel now? He's back. You guys have a pay-per-view on your hands this weekend. Obviously, the live watch-along, right?
Yeah, Ariel's back, uncrowned, the Ariel Helwani show on YouTube. Ariel's back tomorrow, so we'll be recapping everything that happened this weekend, and then we'll be heading into this weekend's fights, you can watch myself and Connor Burks on the watch party this Saturday. So watch it with us. And yeah, same. We're back to the grind now. We're back to the grind now. Hawani's back in pocket, and all's well.
Awesome. All right. Well, look, things are heating up in this combat sports world. Go check out Jimmy. Go check out Rick. Go check out all the great content. We'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for joining us here on another episode of Submission Radio. Morning.